The ATX DAO Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Tequila 512. Looking for a way to decentralize your happy hour? They got you covered. Welcome to the ATX DAO Podcast, the hub for exploring the forefront of blockchain technology in Austin's Web3 community. We connect you with innovators within ATX DAO and beyond as we venture into the world of decentralized technology. So crack open a beer and join us for a front row seat to learn about the innovations and trends shaping our digital future. This is the ATX DAO Podcast. Welcome to the ATX DAO Podcast. We are excited to welcome a couple of guests for our Roundtable episode. We have Christopher and Angel with us. Welcome, guys.
Hey, hey.
Howdy.
Yeah, glad to have you guys on. So, Christopher, you've been on the show before, so glad to have you back. Angel, is your first time on the show, so glad to have you with us as well. Do you want to just do a quick rundown, like who you are, how long you've been part of the DAO, that kind of thing?
Sure. Yep. So I'm Angel or Angle. Everyone else always got to ask which one. It's either. But I've been around the DAO since about January 22. And I've actually been a member since January 2024. Prior to being an actual member, there wasn't like a round going on when I first showed up, and I was participating and assisting with things anyways. So I didn't feel the need to necessarily mint anything. And then there was a former DAO member who wanted to get out, so I just did a peer-to-peer transaction with them to actually join. And everyone was fine with it because I already basically did some work for the DAO and went to all the social events and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for listeners, so there's a couple of ways to get into the DAO. I think we've talked about a recent membership round that we've had, but also you can also buy the token on OpenSea or whatever exchange that you want to use. So if you are interested in being a member of ATX DAO and you see one out there, that is one way that you can join the DAO as well, in addition to our more formal membership rounds.
Yeah. So entrance by secondary market. Love that. I actually remember seeing you at it was one of the pitch competition meetings we had. I believe it was in like August or like September. And seeing you there, I think before you joined or around the same time. So that's super cool.
I don't remember, but let's see. I was a lot of community events that I was going to, and I would help Mason throw some of the things like the South by Austin on Chain and whatnot. Just little assistance here and there.
Right on.
It's a lot of things I don't quite remember.
Yeah. I remember seeing you at the. We have a mutual friend, Mr. Future Maker. And he was throwing these small, like, little crypto events. They were at the Cosmic coffee shop, right? Saltillo, sorry, American pronunciation difficult. Yeah, I remember seeing you there. We were talking about Prague metal and stuff like that, and that was around that same time. So it's funny.
Cool.
So yeah, hey, happy to be back. First of all, this will be my second time on the Roundtable.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure. I'm Christopher. I do growth operations over at Quai Network. But I've been a member of the ATX DAO now for, Blue Bonnet. So that was July 2023. My claim to fame was I actually moved from Greensboro, North Carolina here to Austin and landed. The first thing I did was to go to the Blue Bonnet orientation or welcome party. And having moved states prior to that before, without knowing anybody, moving to Austin and immediately going to an ATX DAO event was like, it's freaking awesome. It was great to have a community instantly to talk to and be around and, just commiserate with and just relate to and talk about crypto with, something I wasn't used to. So I was super smooth landing. Again, super happy to be here.
Yeah,
not a secondary sale entrance, just normal. I think your way is way cooler, to be honest.
Right.
It's a little more degen. It's a little more with the market, more with the style of crypto.
"Quote unquote" shamed me into joining the DAO officially. Not really shamed, but he asked me a question where he was like, "What would you do if you just like got dumped like $1 million?" And I was like, "Oh, this and that, and help friends with this." And he's like, "I noticed you didn't say join the DAO officially." And then I think the next month I got the actual membership.
Nice.
Well, you got dumped $1 million?
No, I did not. Just the opportunity came up.
Not yet.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah.
But I feel like what you're saying, I feel like one of the ways a lot of people get aware of the DAO in general, obviously, like some folks are from listening to the pod, but also going to events. Like that was honestly one of the ways I first learned about the DAO is I think it was either a South by event or Consensus or something, but went to one of our parties and kind of came on board that way. So that was definitely one thing. Am I still cutting out? That was definitely one of the ways too. And speaking of events, we have one coming up very soon. Do you want to talk a little about it, Christopher? Or?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is the next one. This is the next orientation, new member party. So it's called the ATX DAO Summerfest. It's going to happen on the 12th. This is for DAO members only. It's going to be taking place in East Austin, so make sure you pay attention to the Luma. It's going to be taking, I think it's Rich's Art Gallery is the name of the venue, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, if you've been to a new member party, you know what these are like. It's a bunch of new people, but a bunch of returning members. Everyone has a really fun time. We obviously just enjoy what we're doing, have some good conversations and maybe a couple drinks or two, but some really big things happen out of these. And, a lot of my lasting friendships within the DAO were formed at the first one, like I said, just when I moved here. So I definitely check it out. It's happening. It's coming up really quick. As you guys know, we're kind of in a time warp. Time's moving super quick, right? This weekend's the 4th already. And so the actual event will be taking place a week and a day. So that next Saturday after the 4th for this weekend. So definitely stop on by, check it out. Rich's Art Gallery, East Austin.
Yeah, and if you are one of our listeners that listen on the day of the pod, it'll still be in the future for you. So this episode will come out on Thursday, so you'll have a week and a few days to get there. Now, I will also share, so we are not only doing +1s for our DAO members, but we're doing a few extra invites. So if you're not a member of the DAO currently, but you know some, perhaps you can reach out to them and become their +2.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. For those that have been involved for a while, Spicy MPC has been putting this together, and she's been doing just fantastic organizational work around this, keeping everybody in line, staying on top of these things. And so just a quick little shout out to her for everything she's been doing. And of course, I think, Angel, you've been putting this together too.
Yeah, I've assisted a little bit. I actually can't make the event because I have something else, 2 other things happening that day. So I had to choose one. My mom will be bartending there, though. So yes, I have been helping Spicy NPC with some organization, as well as some of the other events we've been doing, in the past year or so. And I've also thrown a couple of myself. That's definitely like the realm that I like to assist in for the DAO.
So would you say that your orientation party was the pitch competition planning? Is that your orientation party?
I think that was the first member meeting I was at. So I wouldn't call it a party.
Definitely was not. I actually like those. I like the operational ones. It's something that we've been really putting forth. When we go to events, we just had a social at the Luster Pearl in East Austin. A lot of fun. I think we had some new members there as well. And, everyone had a good time, but there was some drinking there as well. But, some of these events like the, orientation, the quote unquote orientation was really a monthly member meeting where we were planning the pitch competition that took place earlier this year. That was a couple drinks were there, but that was a lot of PowerPoints. That was a lot of planning. It was very much, not suit and tie, but like suit and ties in the sense that Hanara was, laying down next steps to actually plan this event. And so, yeah, it's kind of a nice mix. I'd say it's a nice 50-50 of both like enjoying social time and meeting people within the community and broadening your network, but then simultaneously also having a business and doing operations and like broadening your network.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about it. I think we've talked about it on the show before. It's just getting to meet other people building cool things and just learning from each other, sharing your ideas. It's just really a great experience there.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to liken the DAO to Austin itself. So I grew up here, and one of the things I've always told people pretty much all my life when they ask about Austin is like, there's always something for everybody. Like no matter what you like to do or enjoy spending your time on, you'll find a community here for it. It might not be huge, but the DAO's kind of like that too, where it's like, whether you're an engineer, you're into business development, sales type things, you just like hanging out and talking about crypto. Like there's always people that you can sort of like broaden your network to include them. They're also DAO members, and then who knows what comes out of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that.
So a native Austinite. So that's rare. So you're one of the unicorns that's actually from here.
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
I know. So that's cool. So I want to kind of dig in a little bit more. Like, how did you get into crypto in the first place? So you mentioned like how you got into the DAO, but like, what was your like crypto journey?
Sure. So I was maybe 14 or so, and I couldn't actually get an official job, and nor did I want to do something like mow lawns. So I was just playing video games, and I was selling items in video games. And some of the merchants transacted in Bitcoin. So I just sort of took a look at what that even was and determined that mining would not be worth the electricity cost, especially on my terrible computer at my grandparents'. Sort of being like, oh, whoa, this is worth more now. Darn, I'm dumb. But eventually in the 2017 cycle, I met this guy at the Bay. His name's Steven Lubka, very awesome person in the Bitcoin space.
He's been on the pod.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I connected
awesome.
you guys with him. Anyways, he got me into it all. He was just doing capoeira, like the Brazilian dance, and it was like, whoa, what's this? And then he starts rambling about all sorts of things, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and just sort of like the ideology and ethos behind those things, decentralization and whatnot. And it was just a very slippery slope from there. Dumped a lot of money into various coins, kind of trading a tiny bit, got work in the space about a year later, and just kept going from there. A lot of research and finding all sorts of opportunities.
That's awesome. So when you mentioned the gaming side, was it like crypto gaming, or it was gaming like you were using tokens for the games in other ways, or just because you had the hardware to play to mine?
No, it was just a normal game called Realm of the Mad God. It's a bullet hell roguelike MMO. There was a real world market where people were just buying items, and some of the people were just buying and selling like peer to peer, essentially using Bitcoin.
Nice.
I love to hear about these Bitcoin markets.
Yeah.
Like that was the whole point of Bitcoin to begin with, right? Was to act as like, a medium of exchange to be able to actually buy goods with. So yeah, that's gnarly.
Yeah. And nowadays no one wants to spend their Bitcoin.
No,
so
you hold it. Yeah. It's just a store value. Number go up token.
Yeah. But you do have a lot of people building stuff to be able to spend it. I'm curious if people are going to actually do it.
I mean, so of what I've seen, the believers definitely want to, right? And then you're going to have like the diehard believers that will say, yeah, use Lightning Network. I think people with a brain realize that like the medium exchange, account kind of era of Bitcoin's gone out the window, right? And everyone with Bitcoin that I know that I've talked to is like, I'm not going to spend this at all. I'm going to hold this. Like, why would I spend this? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
And the answer is like, yeah, I'll hold it too.
Same. I don't want to be the pizza guy. I don't want to find out years later how much something I spent the Bitcoin on would have been worth.
Yeah. What was it, like $1 billion or something like that? Yeah, exactly. And that's why I like to hear it, because I remember, there's definitely like a history of like Bitcoin a lot of people aren't really privy to anymore. Not to say that I got lost with time, but there was an era where people used Bitcoin for transactions regularly on mainnet, not an L2, not an L3 or L15. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, now they're using Web 7 as well.
If you know, Web 3 is just a marketing term.
Yep.
Yeah, but that kind of like brings in the question is Bitcoin money? That's like something that I guess philosophers of Bitcoin have always been arguing about. If it's not used as a means of transaction, then is it really money? And that is part of the thing that's been lost. Like you mentioned, people don't really know what the origin is. People now see like maybe they can add it to their retirement account at Fidelity or something. They don't really know what it is or what any of the.
I think a lot of its origins get lost too. It's like when people learn about Bitcoin, it's almost like it gets imprinted on their brain, and then their drivers never get updated to like what's actually happening. And if you're in the space, which you are, you're listening to this podcast, you know how fast things go. And so like what happened yesterday isn't necessarily here tomorrow, or here today and then even tomorrow. And that's to say, a lot of people like my mom, for instance, still thinks like, Bitcoin's like sketchy coders in a lab somewhere, right? Like even though there's a BlackRock ETF out, and, to your point about, is it money? That's the real question. I think there's like a very strong, subsection of the population that is still trying to make it money. The question is, will it ever adopt in that fashion? And with its new store of value properties, or however you want to say it, its new era, or its like current incarnation, right? Like, will it ever evolve past the store of value? There's a thing called Gresham's Law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but the TLDR is basically just if you have two currencies, you're going to default to the weaker currency for transactions. And that's to say, if you had like Bitcoin and the dollar, right, you'll hold the Bitcoin, you'll spend the dollar. And so like, will Bitcoin ever become the weaker of the two, or the spending element there in that equation? Probably not. Not if it remains gold. Right. Not if it remains the store of value.
Yeah. So, and I'm curious what y'all think about this analogy. That's usually how I explain it to some people that are kind of curious about Bitcoin versus altcoins. Because anytime you talk to a Bitcoiner, their whole thing is that Bitcoin is Bitcoin and crypto is everything else. But the way that I have rationalized it in my head is to compare it to different metals. So like if Bitcoin is gold, then some of the other coins are other kinds of metals. So like steel, for example, like if you're on a high throughput chain that you use a lot of transactions, that token is really more for a useful purpose to do something. Keeping it just for the sake of admiring it, like you can make things out of gold, but they're generally going to be like rings or jewelry or things like that. But other tokens could be equated to like a steel or an aluminum or things that have a useful purpose, and that's the value of them, is the useful life that they have, versus the Bitcoin is to be held, is how I tend to think of it. But curious if what you think of that.
I think it's a good one. I think another one, you could use fruit, like, Bitcoin to be like apples, but not that this is a fruity analogy, ha ha ha. But like, Ethereum's like an orange, right? Like Quai would be grapes, right? Like there's different fruit out there, there's different types. It's not like there's only one fruit and there's no other fruit outside of apples. It's apples only for everything.
Right.
Right. No. Yeah. There's different types. We just saw the earliest version. Look at smartphones. Another good analogy, right? Like there's not just one type of smartphone. There's tons of different types of models from different brands out there, beyond just Android, beyond just iPhone even.
Yep.
Or Apple rather. And there isn't just one smartphone to rule them all. I know I'm going to call some of our DAO members and throw them under the bus with this comment. If that's you, if you think it's literally just Bitcoin and crypto, then you're kind of naive when it comes to technology. Like you're looking at quite literally the first version of the internet and calling dial-up the final version of all internet, period. Right? Like that's the best analogy, because everyone that's old enough remembers dial-up. And it was the slowest, most annoying thing. You can never use the phone at the same time. It's usually, what was it like? I remember I used to play like StarCraft, the first StarCraft. You like download like maps for it, like campaign maps and stuff, like multiplayer maps. And just a 50 megabyte map would take like an hour.
Oh,
during that, your mom, your parents, your brother, your sister, like wanted to use the phone or something and be like, what are you doing? Right. And that's Bitcoin. Is there no other internet after dial-up? And it's just no. Is there any other fruit outside of apples? Yes. So I feel like it's just a really naive take from people that are otherwise not very tech savvy. And so like they can, as I originally said, like when you first get imprinted with the idea of the concept of Bitcoin, sometimes it just stays in stone after that. And like that's those people. They never update their drivers. They never change their perspectives. They're like, all other cryptos are garbage, and I'll never look at any other innovations on top of that. We're working on proof of work. Like that's what we're doing at Quai.
Yep.
We're moving that one forward. I'm not here to shill it, but I'm just saying like we're broadband.
Yeah.
We're not dial up. But if you're like crypto is bad, you'll never understand the sophisticated elements that go into it. And you'll stay stuck in that dial-up period of time. And that's fine. There are people out there, grandparents that are still using AOL. So there's those people. If that's you and you're in the DAO, I'm sorry. Come on by. We can get you introduced to broadband.
Maybe you guys aren't the right example, but if I asked like my mom or my girlfriend, like how does the internet actually work? They're not going to be able to give an answer. So someone who's just like trying to use crypto for what's in their mind, crypto is a pay for payments or something like that. Like they don't really even need to compare it. They just need an app that makes it really simple. Let me tap my phone at Starbucks and done. I kind of like that idea that like you shouldn't have to know, because if you don't know how the internet works, it doesn't stop you from using it. You can still go www.google.com and search, the latest news about whatever. It's totally fine. Like you don't need that stuff in your head, because maybe you're an artist and like that's not the most important thing to you. You want to focus on something else.
I agree with that. I agree with that a lot. Some people just don't need to know. Like I don't know how to code. I can understand syntaxes, and you throw a smart contract in front of me and I can make a guess. Yeah, I totally get it. Some people just need to know that it works, and that's it. Right? When I go to plug my guitar in, I don't need to know the sophisticated mechanics behind the actual amp receiving the signal. I just know I push button, I turn dial, I plug string, it work, right? I hit drum, it work. I don't need to understand acoustics. Sometimes it is better that way. I just feel bad that for people that try to appear sophisticated and they keep it at such a surface level kind of perspective, and then act like they know it all. They run the world like, oh, this Bitcoin and crypto is meh and all that, and that's their perspective forever. Whatever. I won't throw pity their way, but if I'm calling you out, come talk to me. We'll have a good conversation.
Yep. No, for sure. Very cool. So you guys both mentioned gaming. So are y'all doing any kind of Web3 gaming at all, or what are y'all seeing in that space?
You want to go first?
Sure. The answer is no.
Okay. Because the games suck, or because you like the old one, like the not Web3 games, or what do you thought?
I pretty much exclusively play Arena in League of Legends currently. It's just fun. But yeah, there hasn't been any Web3 game that has really spoken to me, other than Baby Cart and their other game, Shogun Curse. So they built a game first that was just fun, And then maybe a month or two ago, they added like a trading market for items for you could use USDC. And that's the only like kind of game related to Web3 that I've ever been interested in. The rest is just, it's not fun for me. I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, so I'm sure some people find them fun. And it's just people need to put the game first. Right? Don't put the cart before the horse. Don't build out your Web3 aspect, but then there's no fun product.
I'm 1,000% agree with you there. So I don't game as much as I used to, but I definitely have like tens of thousands of hours in games. Like I used to run a World of Warcraft guild in both versions of World of Warcraft. I have thousands in Skyrim, and I love like RTS games and Age of Empires. I go back a long way. I did a book report in StarCraft back when I was like in 6th grade.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So, with that perspective, and I don't have as much time, unfortunately, nowadays, but I will say I totally agree with you. The worst games out there, think about like the money first and then the game second. And you talk to any gamer, it's kind of funny, just separate to all this. Like I'm actually working with a PR firm, marketing firm that's getting us connected to DreamHack. And we're actually going to go to DreamHack and do some stuff there as a team. And we're going to have an opportunity to present, a blockchain to gamers. And so that all relates to this because most gamers, they hate blockchain, they hate crypto. Everyone mocks and makes fun of the NFT bull run, the ETH bull run of 2021. Some good reason. There was promise of future. There was a promise of like riches. There was promise of this is going to change everything. And quite frankly, a lot of it was hot air. And, I think Axie Infinity was a good idea at first. But the problem over time was its own success led to its downfall.
Yeah.
Because token went up and then token really went up. And then subsequently, to be able to even participate in the game, you had to hire trainers and like instructors. You had to go through these weird systems where you couldn't actually afford to buy your own. I was about to call it a Pokemon, but your own monster for the game in Axie Infinity, whatever they called them.
I think they're Axies.
Axies, yeah, that makes sense. And then, and it priced out the original market it was intended for. Yeah. Which was, it was, if you didn't know, created in the Philippines. It was really created for Filipinos. But then when, buying Axies was like $1,000, you had to actually basically either get loans or join other people and collectively own these Axies. So like I said, its own success led to its own downfall. Yeah. So a lot of people, almost rightfully so too, with some merit, called it like a Ponzi. Yeah. But if you ever played Axie Infinity, it was the most bullshit, boring game in the world.
Like it was just a grind so I never played it myself, but I watched tons of things about it. And I played some other ones that were like modeled after their tokenomics and stuff. And like it was just people grinding. Like they weren't playing because they liked it. It was a job.
Exactly. And I used to, I played a lot of League of Legends too. Fuck a collie, just saying. And I played a lot of that because it was fun and it was enjoyable. It was free. You didn't have to pay.
Yeah, it's free. That's how I've spent thousands of dollars on it.
Exactly. Exactly right.
Well, that's like an interesting point is like you got to find the people that are willing to spend money on playing your game because like most of these games are businesses. So they do need to earn some kind of revenue at some point eventually. And if they want to be in crypto, like what really is the way to do that? The entirety of StarCraft 2 or like the entire revenue stream from StarCraft 2 is less than like a single microtransaction mount from World of Warcraft. So what's the incentive to make this fun game when it makes absolutely no money?
I had to turn away from the microphone because I was laughing there because it's true. And I actually remember I was working a minimum wage job at a movie theater and I was obsessed with StarCraft. And so when they announced StarCraft 2, I like saved up like 6 months worth of like, paychecks after paying rent and all the other stuff, built a computer for it and all that other stuff. And you're totally right. Yeah, one freaking mount from WoW surpassed all the revenue generated from StarCraft, which is really funny. So it goes back to what you're saying. It's like revenue doesn't have to be a part of it, but if it's not fun, it's not compelling. If people can't get obsessed with it, like, and I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, but if like people can't have like that autistic focus of like, this is the best thing in the world and stay with it, like you won't get anything. You'll get no adoption and your thing will just crash and die and then token will go down and you'll have nothing. So make it fun. Make it like from the heart, make it so people can be passionate about what you made. And then I think there'll be some interest, but we have a couple of games on chain I'm working on. They're cool. One's like Flappy Bird. It's called Flappy Boss. It's the same thing right? But it's nothing. And I love it. And Boss, if you're listening to this, a great project, etc. But at the same time, it's not like a super deep game. So I definitely expect some people in their downtime to play it. Got 10 minutes, go ahead and play it. But if you want something that's like truly Web3 gaming, I don't think we've really seen anything like that before. I know there's a couple of first-person shooters out there that might fall into line with this. I think you can trade guns. I think this is on Avalanche, right? You probably know a little bit more about it than I do. But, those would be the only things that I think of that would make sense. Everything else that I've seen is, again, just been about the profit or too shallow to like stay with for a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're talking about Off the Grid is one of the big ones that's on Avalanche. It's and that one's cool. Like, honestly, like most people that play it don't even know it's a Web3 game. Like, you can play it on PlayStation, play it on Xbox. You can't buy the token, but the game's still on testnet. So even though the token's on mainnet, the game doesn't use those tokens yet. And so, yeah, it's just fun. It's a third person shooter. I'm horrible at it. So I bought a PS5 just so I could play the game.
Oh, it was on PlayStation?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And then you can all play. At first, they were all segmented, so you can only play with other PS5 people, but now you can play everywhere.
Cross-platform.
Yeah.
So do you think it's good enough where people will just buy it and not know it's crypto-related and not buy it for the crypto reasons? And just be like, it's so good, like I'm just buying it outside. Because that's the only way to get adoption, is you have to literally create something that's so good that people don't either A, care that it's crypto, or B, like don't even know that it's crypto.
Yeah, and it's got some interesting dynamics. It's really the only Web3 game that I play actively. It's so basically the premise is it's a battle royale type game. You play in a group of 3, and then all of the people in the game have removed their arms and legs. And so you have these mechanical arms and legs that you can like steal from other things, and they have different powers and stuff. And so you're trying to collect these hexes, which are the NFTs in the game basically. And if you can extract them successfully, then you can keep them. And that's it. And they have different stuff like skins, guns, all that kind of stuff. And so there's no real like grinding the game, because all you're really doing is collecting these things. And that's pretty much.
But do these things, like, are there better things than other things?
Yes. Yeah. There's different rarities, and they have different, it's not just aesthetics, but if like a more rare one will be a little better.
So how do you prevent pay to win from happening?
So you don't start with any of the stuff that you own. Like, you can start with your skin. So if you get skins or buy them on the marketplace, you can always have those. But for the guns, like, everyone drops in with nothing. You have to collect whatever guns are available. And then if you earn enough money in the game, then you can summon like an airdrop of things, and then you can pick up your gear. But you don't start with your gear. So you still have to play the game
a little bit
each round long enough to summon your gear, and then you can have it.
Yeah, that tracks.
And then it's pay to win.
And then it's pay to win.
And then it can be, but you have to be good enough to get that far.
You can be a millionaire and just have a good enough loadout. You can be a millionaire and have good enough loadout, and then just airdrop yourself. Okay, well they thought about it at least a little bit.
Yeah, and it's an actual like fun game to play and stuff. So there's been some that I played that are just like, I would only play it because I'm trying to earn tokens,
right?
And I won't name those ones, but there's it's like 99% of everything I've played fits in that category. But
that's the trick, right? Is to get people to play it without trying to earn tokens.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the ultimate goal. So if we ever actually see true adoption of Web3 gaming, we'll find that one that actually does that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this one off the grid. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's an MMO.
I don't know. Are people really in the space to have fun, or are we here to
I think most people are here to make money.
Yeah. Well, you mean lose money?
And miserable DJs at the end of the day that are all somehow connected to like institutions and high level Wall Street.
So like, that game sounds great because it's not about the money at all. It seems it's just, hey, play this game, find it fun, cool. And on the back end, we utilize the blockchain or whatever, and maybe in the future that will help with like adoption of like, oh, wait a minute, now you have to kind of connect to Avalanche to maybe like sell your items and collectibles.
I think it's a bit of a niche opinion, but I almost feel like there is no use for blockchain directly in games. I think like the only, and you can definitely check me if you want, but I feel like the only like real use case is really for payments. So for paying for like a monthly subscription, or like paying for the skin in game. You have like a regular RPG or something, and then you want to buy a skin for it. Boom, you use blockchain. I pay in whatever, USDC, whatever, and then I pay for it that way, as opposed to credit card. I think outside of that, the financial incentive is too much, where inevitably it will either turn into a Ponzi, or just collapse on itself, or it'll just have no heart, no soul, and it'll be for, like you just said, token go up only, and then as soon as token no longer go up, then people flood out of it and it's completely dead. Like, and that life cycle is like a month, if that, right? Like a couple weeks.
Yeah. So honestly, the thing that I've been surprised hasn't done, but I'm sure it's for financial reasons. So what I don't like about modern gaming just in general is, like back in the day when there was cartridges for everything, as soon as you're done with the game, you can sell it. You can go to GameStop, you can find a buddy that wants to have it, whatever. Like what I would love to see, and they won't because it's way more profitable to sell the game to everybody, and then everyone else that wants it also has to buy it from you firsthand. But if you could sell your game, like, hey, I've beaten this game, I've played it all that I'm ever going to play it, I would like to sell the game to you. That would be an awesome use case for the end user, for the game developer. It's not
so much. Yeah. Oh, and the game distributor, not so much.
But they could position themselves like GameStop does, right? They can be some kind of intermediary where they buy it back from you and then they can sell a used license or something.
Sorry to pick you apart a little, but the major issue is scarcity. It doesn't exist anymore.
That's true.
Right? Like there's infinite versions of the digital game you want to buy. There's no like limited version of like Tekken or whatever that will eventually run out, so I have to transfer it.
Right.
And then, like you said, then you got the big gatekeepers that'll just chop you down. Steam's like extremely anti-NFT. Epic's actually really good with crypto. They, with Fortnite,
yep,
and everything, they really want to adopt it. But yeah, Steam. I don't know about GOG, and there's some other platforms out there, but yeah, no, unfortunately, I just don't see that ever taking off. We don't live in a scarce video game world anymore. There's no scarcity there. There's no limited stock. I don't go to my Blockbuster and be like, oh, darn, Super Mario's out of stock. Right? Like, no, it's...
Yeah, it's more of a thing that like the user would want it, but the game developer, there's no reason they would want to build it.
Yeah, they lose a ton of money that way.
And for the developers, really, like in the end, it's not the most efficient technology ever. It's, running Bitcoin mining farms takes a lot of energy. It's like every other aspect of it is a little slower than traditional systems.
Yeah, the problem is, right, I'm not going to shill, I promise.
You can shill. We've had Quai on the show twice. Like, you're welcome to talk about Quai. Like,
I mean, the major problem, right, is that everything that everyone's using right now is mostly antiquated technology, and nothing's actually, like, new. Nothing's actually, like, next level. And then if it is next level, most likely it's going to be proof of stake. And so it has its inherent limitations just through that. That's why like I definitely agree with you. But like Bitcoin's old news, Ethereum's old news.
Wow.
Right?
Well.
They both require
I didn't say that.
Antiquated technology in terms of like, there's a dial-up. One of those is the dial-up. The second one's DSL. We're beyond broadband, we're on Wi-Fi. And that's the problem, like to your point. Technologies come forth a certain way, and it is bad distribution because they aren't powerful enough. The transactions per second aren't where they need to be. The actual bandwidth required to produce blocks is way too high for some of them. Not naming names. So you're right. The thing is adoption is actually quite difficult, especially for newer chains. Everyone knows this is definitely the weirdest cycle period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We hit an all-time high before the halvening. BlackRock has ETFs out. Trump's family just launched an ETF. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I'll see that.
Yeah, for Ethereum and Bitcoin through World Liberty Financial. Right now I think the Bitcoin dominance is like one of the highest it's ever been, while the rest of the market's either going sideways or going down, which has also never really happened in this regard. And we haven't hit quantitative easing yet. And so who knows what's going to happen once, Jerome Powell gets completely fired, which is what everyone's kind of hinting at. And then he gets replaced with someone that will immediately lower interest rates. So it's really hard to predict. It's a very strange market. You're right. In terms of like throughput, in terms of like the actual computing power, it's a difficult market, especially for, newer blockchains that actually have the technology that could scale the proper way, that actually have the power to be able to do all this. Right. A lot of us are getting left behind, or, not left behind, but, definitely in choppy waters. So market weird.
It's a marketing thing too. Cause, whoever says like, yeah, we really need more L2s in a non-sarcastic way. Right. Right. So,
well, that was the altcoin season for ETH, right?
Yeah. But now what L2s can you name that are popping off still?
Yeah. They all died at this point.
Right, so like anyone who is developing like a technology that is better, faster, all the words that people use for marketing purposes. Which ones worked out?
Optimism, Arbitrum.
Is Blast even still around? I know that was like the talk of the crypto Twitter for a long time.
Funny, I knew some of the people on the
Blast
BD
was
team
fun.
there. Blast was a blast, but Blast, just like the name, exploded and then dissipated.
At my previous company, we launched on Blast, and it was a wild ride.
Yeah.
As there was a lot of money flowing in, especially from Chinese folks. So they had to do a little bit of working around their regulations there to get into Blast, but billions of dollars were coming in because people were really, really, really trying to farm that Blast gold and the points. And then they had their airdrop, and people are super optimistic about it. CEO of my company thought it was going to be $8, and I was like, nah, $2. They just pulled that out of my ass, and then airdrop happened, and it stabilized around $2. Big brain, if anyone wants to,
Crypto whisperer.
hire me or something. But
Make me curious what it's at right now.
no, but what that was that Pac-Man was essentially just like a marketing genius, and he was able to pull in so much money onto the chain just by like engaging people in the right way on Twitter and whatever Chinese social medias there are. I'm not really sure. He also had his cred from Blur. That was and it was just fun too. Like every Discord and Telegram group, everyone was always talking about how they were farming gold, and they like really built up the community there, which is community can kind of be a meme, but the Blast ecosystem wasn't really like a PvP ecosystem. Like, yes, there's only a limited amount of gold, and depending on how much money you have to put into it, you get your little share, but you're not directly like gutting other people's wallets in order to make the money. You're just hanging out. Maybe you're yield farming, maybe you're trading, or maybe you're playing a game. Like,
You don't want to take a look at the price.
What is it? So I saw your face when you looked it up. What?
It's not $2. Of today, it's not even a cent.
okay,
Thing
2/10 of a cent.
Thing went down, really quick. I think that's a testament to like how a lot of these life cycles are. It's a lot of hype. It's a lot of promise. It's actually probably the issue with this industry in a lot of ways. It's a lot of hot air, and it's a lot of people frothy of like, this is what I'm going to need to make it. Then you can say it's taking advantage of people. Ultimately, there was a lot of promise there. There's a lot of, hey, you're going to go from A to B, and you're going to be here at B with bags full of money, and ultimately people pull out. I know some people at Bearchain. I think it's a great chain. I think there's a lot of use case there and a lot of innovations, but you're seeing a lot of talk on Twitter about that happening for Bearchain too, where it had like a lot of promise, a lot of initial capital, but then a lot of that got pulled out. It brought to market through proof of liquidity are definitely super interesting, but I think a lot of people are just really in it, as we kind of talked about. It's really just for number go up, and there's no lasting morals. There's no like lasting conviction. There's no actual drive, passion, or vision of like where we want this to go. Now I'm definitely gonna get some shit for this, but I think Ethereum is a lot to blame for that. I think Ethereum brought in a lot of greed, and ultimately a lot of institutional mindset of like number go up, and if number doesn't go up, I'm out. Yeah. Whereas like with Bitcoin, it was actually it wasn't really about number go up at first. It was more about like, this is a revolutionary digital payment system that's outside of the government's control. Yeah. That's bringing back the power to the people of like financial instruments and financial security and sovereignty. Along the way, we've lost that. Number go up. This is new rotation. Me rich, right? Like, and people are just trying to make it. When in the reality at first, it was never about making it. It was about separating yourself from and becoming like a sovereign individual. Yeah. And so like, I think a lot of people have lost that along the way. And again, I'll put my neck out there, but I think it's because of Ethereum. Ethereum really introduced this. Smart contracts are great. Analogies from earlier. That's definitely the DSL to broadband moment. Programmable NFTs and games and everything else in there, right? Tokens, great. But it also brought in a whole different society, a whole different clique of people. A lot of people listening to this as well, myself included, I started in the Ethereum ecosystem. But I also kept that, mentality the same all the way through. Like, this is a separate ecosystem. Yeah. This is like bringing power back to the people. Truth is once you get like super deep and you start seeing who's behind the curtain, you start realizing, oh, is this actually a separate ecosystem? I'm not going to name any names because I've already put my neck out there, but if there's a reason, that's one of the reasons. We've lost our way. This is no longer about like government separate from money. In fact, a lot of people listening to this may encourage it, but like there's a BlackRock ETF out there. You know what I mean? Like the government's talking about a Bitcoin reserve. That's actually kind of a good thing, but is it? Was that the original vision of Satoshi?
Yeah.
You know, maybe. But one thing's for sure is we're not using it to pay for like a taco.
Right.
A lot of people can't afford to be idealistic. Like, right, the ethos is still strong in me, but if you're living like paycheck to paycheck and you're kind of interested in crypto, you're just hoping the number goes up so you can pay your rent and things like that. Or if you are pretty wealthy, maybe you're like super risk averse. So being idealistic and really interested in like the decentralization aspect isn't cool either, because you also have kids to feed, business to support, things like that.
Doesn't that mean the bankers won then?
Yes. But there are the people like the original like cypherpunks that were able to go outside of that and like build Bitcoin in the first place. I don't think anyone really ever thought Bitcoin was going to be the new world currency. It's just, it sounds pretty idealistic and pretty unrealistic, but it's got to find its niche, just like everything else.
I think the history of Bitcoin from 2008, right, inception to 2015 is probably the most interesting era. And I'm not going to go into it, but like research deeply there, because there were a lot of people that thought it was going to be like that, and was going to be like the reserve currency and going to take over everything, and you know everything will get swallowed by crypto and all that other stuff.
People that wear tinfoil hats too.
Yeah, and a lot of them are wearing it as a prescription.
Yeah, you can sell anything these days.
Yeah, well, I'm also saying that they need it. Yeah. Otherwise, they wouldn't be healthy. And maybe they have a reason to. But I will also say that you know, I agree with you. A lot of people, times are hard. Inflation through the roof. There was the chart put out by Elon Musk the other day. I don't know if you saw it, about flattening the curve.
Yeah.
And it's just like insane to see all the money that's just been printed and nonstop, even with Trump in office saying he won't do it. He's clearly doing it.
Yeah. He was the headline I caught from his post was something about, we don't have two parties, we just pretend to. It's like a uniparty, because that chart goes the same direction regardless of who's in office.
Yeah, exactly. My thing, you know, we don't need to go into too deep into politics or anything, but you know, it doesn't matter who's in office. There's two things that are sure: debt go up, wars continue.
Yeah,
it's just how it is. To the point we were just making a second ago, times are hard. Some people are looking at it as an escape mechanism, and it was originally intended to be an escape mechanism, but it also was intended to be like a completely separate payment system, monetary system outside of the one that, you know, we're all beholden to, whether we want to or not. Because now we've seen the institutional introduction of institutions through Ethereum, which got reverse Trojan horse. Now, no matter what, that isn't a separate system anymore. Look at what happened in 2023. Look what happened with Silvergate and Silicon Valley Bank. I think one of which is part of the DAO, by the way. Shout out to you. But, you know, got bailed out by the government, and that completely bailed out DeFi. It actually saved DeFi. Very little people know about that. It's just a testament to like these systems are now completely intertwined and coupled and not decoupled. So that original vision is kind of gone.
It's still worldwide. You could still send Bitcoin from here to China, Nigeria, one state over, which is also a world away. But
I actually did a presentation in Nigeria just 2 weekends ago at their largest university, University of Lagos.
Nice,
interesting.
Which is kind of fun. So yeah, I'm very, very much in the know of that. But on Bitcoin, at least, everything's traced and you're not anonymous.
Right.
That was never the point, though. It's supposed to be public, searchable.
Well, it's supposed to be anonymous, but then the tools got too good.
Well, shout out to Zach XBT.
Yeah.
Big
yeah.
idol of mine.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of North Korea.
Yeah, the Lazarus Group is responsible for so many hacks, billions and billions of dollars. That doesn't help the image that crypto is for criminals.
I mean, how do we restore like the image of crypto? Right? Like, without a doubt, crypto is taking a hit from its image. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. And like, how do you make something that's not just number go up and people frothy about trying to save themselves through, you know, this like would otherwise be considered a Deus Ex Machina, right? Like, how do we save that image? Is it our responsibility, or are we just here to have fun and to DAO, you know, do some business?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that it's making real solutions to problems that exist in the world. I think that's probably the main way to do it, right? Like the meme coin casinos can be fun, but it's literally what it is. Like a pump.fun definitely didn't help the image of crypto when you have all these crazy, especially when they added live streaming in there. Like that was just nuts.
Didn't someone kill themselves?
They did.
Yeah.
And they said to make a meme coin out of it, and then people did make a meme coin out of it.
Yeah.
And
then it got rugged.
Yeah.
Of course. Didn't someone like lock themselves in a dog cage, like eat shit or something.
There's like crazy stuff that would happen.
The Black Mirror episode on the new season. I don't like Black Mirror, by the way, but I was forced to watch this one. The first episode is maybe it wasn't the first. It was precisely that. It was some guy in need of money. Was like he pulled out his tooth and I don't know, like put a dildo in his butt or something. I'm not really sure, but that is literally happening in the real world. It's not even a fantasy Black Mirror episode.
I think you're right. I think we need to find something that's like actually applicable, as a boon to people, as a benefit rather than a negative. But I don't think it's so hard to get away from the fart. And fart coin's actually institutionally backed, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're like, haha, fart coin, like the Beavis and Butthead image just pops right in, right? Like, and that, sure, it actually does kind of help the image a little bit because it takes us away from the corporate bind us and bring us back to silly, fun world that's like, you know, profitable, I guess.
Yeah.
Help people out. You know, where's the use case? What is the thing that's gonna make a blockchain that picks up trash?
We got to do military industrial complex blockchain and coin. That's like one of the biggest industries.
That'll save everything. That'll restore the image. Oh, look, it's rugging. There's no bombs. No bombs are dropping.
Right.
That'd be good.
That would be good.
Yeah. But I think like, so before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the new recent news with the Kraken and Solana with the tokenized stocks.
Yeah.
So I think that's like a starting point in that space. Like it's solving an issue with being able to trade at different times whenever like having like the waiting periods that you have. I mean, I'm not saying it's groundbreaking, but it's offering some benefit.
No, I see the overlap. Yeah, it doesn't make me excited, but you know, shout out to Kraken. I love you guys. Continue to list us, please. And yeah, you know, I think it's a pretty good breakthrough. I think trading equities 24/7 is interesting. You know, I think it's just there. It's just that. It's interesting. Cool. You know, that's not going to help the hobo outside, right? Or like the kid in class, right? Maybe the kid in class actually, but you know, I don't get excited about that. My excitement levels stay level whenever I hear about that. Things like I don't know if you guys are familiar with what we want to create at Quai. It's called the energy dollar. You might be.
Oh, yeah.
You've probably been pitched a million times on it. Yeah. But the concept it's interesting because it's been thought of before in the past by like great minds like Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, and Henry Ford have talked about like having like a currency that's separate from, it was gold at the time, back when the gold standard was real. Now it's literally not real and we're in a fiat world. And so it's like the idea is to derive currency from energy and to create like a separate monetary unit that has like tangible value, again, in energy, which you can create through proof of work and through the production of like blocks and the hash rate associated with it and the difficulty to mine it and all this other stuff. But I think something like that might be interesting. But even then, it's only interesting to like, and this is full respect, but like for, DeFi circles and like TradFi circles that are really just interested in financial instrumentation, right? Like having DeFi instruments and number go up and like being able to have like a decentralized crypto dollar that's separate from fiat. Like that might be cool. But I still also, and I love it. It's literally why I'm part of Quai, and that thesis right there is what brought me here to begin with. But I still don't see that being super useful for the hobo outside, the grandma down the street or something like that. They're not going to get excited about that. I will. I saw a parallel, pirate ecosystem get bailed out by the government. That's not how it's supposed to work. Something like Chi would have, in a bad way, would have prevented that. So the system would have gone down in that case. Right? No bueno. But it wouldn't have been reliant on fiat to begin with.
That's one like an interesting thought I'm having off of that is like security. Blockchain is so not secure compared to these traditional methods. So that's another problem people have. Back to the games, for example, let's say you have a RuneScape. Who even owns them nowadays? I'm just going to say Jagex. They get some kind of like hack leak of usernames and passwords. Someone goes in and steals all the items from all the players. They just roll back the server. If you have a blockchain game, you can't roll back the blockchain if it's built on it. And then everyone's going to be upset. Your user experience is demolished. It's the same thing with any financial app. Lazarus Group steals your money. Good luck. Have fun. It's on you. So there's that sort of self-responsibility, self-sovereignty aspect. But most people don't want that. They just, number go up.
They want centralized control. They want the ability to roll it back. They want to be able to fix mistakes, which doesn't work very well in a financial, system. And it has been done. They've even rolled back Bitcoin in the early days.
Wow, a long time ago.
Very long time ago, like 2010, and then obviously ETH as well, 2016. When they become very well established and ingrained, it's basically impossible. There's ways, which we can't actually use it for what we want. I still think the jury is undecided on like what the actual, what's the saving, what's the big one, like what's the saving grace, or what's the one that will take this and bring it to the real world in an altruistic way, in which people are like, oh, that makes sense. And people say stable coins, and I can understand that as well, but it's still just dollar proliferation at the end of the day, and just I can do that on PayPal. Just use PayPal. Which actually I think they have a stable coin now. But I'm saying like Venmo and there's like a digital form of it that's already there. They back with like T-bills and other stuff. We'll see, I don't know what the answer is.
I think kind of along those lines, is that what Crack is? Have you seen the Kraken has their own thing? It's like they're trying to be
Kraken's nomenclature.
Right.
Their token is Crack.
Yeah.
Well,
no, they've got a Venmo app now that's called Crack.
Yeah. It would go viral like, hey, are you on Crack? Like you literally can ask people that and be like, oh, let me get you on Crack. So
that's the fun part about crypto. Maybe that's the real use case of crypto is taking corporate culture, the chains that bind us, and like just restricting them and removing them. Saying, hey, are you on Crack? Of course, I love Crack.
Fair enough.
Fartcoin,
right? Law enforcement, but
yeah, we're talking about the payment app Crack, of course.
Yeah, it's a mobile app. It's addictive.
Well, it's just like a Venmo.
Yeah, it's basically like Venmo. So you can send it to your email. You get it. You set up your account. Then the tokens are in your wallet.
We actually have one of those. It's called Blip.
Nice.
Yeah, I was introducing that to a bunch of Nigerian students just 2 weeks ago. It was talked about. So a little late to the game, Kraken. Yeah, I think the branding's a little bit better, but it's okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Good deal. It's been fun, guys. I really enjoyed having y'all on. So before we close out, anything that you're excited about in the world of blockchain, anything like that you want to chat about before we go? Or
the ATX DAO Summerfest. Again, that's on the 12th. It's at Rich's Art Gallery, East Austin. Be there. It's the new member in orientation. Stop on by. There are drinks. There is fun. There is food. There are great people. It's going to be a good time. Stop on by.
Yes, and if you're not a member yet and you're interested in going, reach out to whatever ATX DAO member you know. Maybe we have some extra RSVPs we can offer, but no promises there, but that's a possibility. Angel, anything on your end?
Yeah, it's the same as it's always really been for me. It's just the communities, especially during COVID, everyone was online all the time. People, kept their mental sanity through communities. Now we are way bigger on the real world communities like ATX DAO, and whether or not crypto is going to be the future or not, hopefully it will be, but those communities are there. We're building lifelong friendships and partnerships and things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Couldn't agree more on that. I think that if I think about obviously like finances and like all of that kind of thing is one of the drivers for being here. But one of the things I value the most out of having ever been in the blockchain, Web3 and that kind of thing is the people I've met through it. Whether it's locally here with ATX DAO, whether it's the NFT communities I was in when I first joined all of this space, or some of the different spaces I'm in now. That's one of the coolest things, just connections that you make, getting to know these people that you literally would have never met otherwise. So.
What I like to say is blockchain spawns people. It spawns opulence. It spawns and creates like personas and communities. It brings people together. This wouldn't even happen without crypto. It's pretty cool.
For sure. Before we close out, how do people get a hold of you all if they're interested in connecting with you, following you on socials or otherwise?
Yeah. So again, you should definitely check out the blockchain I'm working on. It's called Quai Network. It's spelled QUAI. It's QU.ai, which is the web browser or the URL. And then you can follow me on X. I'm always on X at Christopher NFGG.
Awesome. Thanks, Christopher. Angel?
Cool. I'm not really posting on any socials frequently, but X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I call it Twitter still. The handle's at QUETZALCAP. It's Quetzalcap, like the bird, and then like a hat. Or on Discord. Discord's the real place to reach me. It's just 0x angle.
Nice. Awesome. And then I usually don't share mine on the air, but I guess I will too since it's a roundtable. So Luke152 on most socials, and then AVAX Team 1 is mostly affiliated with besides the stuff I do with ATX DAO. All right, guys. Well, good chatting with y'all.
It's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the ATX DAO Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. To learn more about ATX DAO, visit us at atxdao.com and follow us on X, Farcaster, and LinkedIn at ATX DAO. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.